Article 411 of the National Electrical Code requires system components to be listed. Currently, there is no specific underwriters' laboratories or all listing that specifically complies with all requirements of Article 411. UL 2108 is a developing standard that aims to address the requirements of Article 411. However, as of now, UL 2108 is not yet finalized and is not available as a UL listing that complies with Article 411. UL 1838 is a listing for Class 2 power supplies. UL 1838 does not directly comply with Article 411. Article 411 limits the voltage of low-voltage systems to 24 volts or 15 volts if supplied by a Class 2 transformer. UL 1838 allows for power supplies that have a maximum output voltage of 30 volts. Therefore, a UL 1838 listed power supply does not meet the voltage limitation of Article 411. It is incorrect to assume that all low-voltage transformers must be 15 volts or less to comply with the NEC. Article 411 allows for transformers with output voltages up to 24 volts, provided they are Class 2 transformers and meet other requirements of the article. In conclusion, currently, there is no official UL listing that specifically complies with Article 411. UL 1838 does not directly comply with Article 411 due to the voltage limitation. The NEC does not require low-voltage transformers to be limited to 15 volts, allowing for transformers up to 24 volts if they meet Class 2 requirements and other provisions of Article 411. To elaborate further, let's break down the components of Article 411 and the relevant UL standards. Firstly, Article 411 in the NEC covers low-voltage lighting systems typically operating at 30 volts or less. This article sets requirements for safety to mitigate risks associated with low-voltage systems such as shock hazards and fire risks. These systems are commonly used in landscape lighting, display lighting, and similar applications. The core requirement of Article 411 is that all components of the low-voltage lighting system must be listed. This means that the components have been tested and certified by a recognized testing laboratory like UL to meet specific safety standards. The intention is to ensure that the equipment is safe to use and performs as intended. Secondly, UL 2108 is a standard that is under development to specifically address low-voltage lighting systems and their compliance with Article 411. The development of UL 2108 has been ongoing for several years, and the goal is to create a comprehensive standard that covers all aspects of low-voltage lighting systems, ensuring they meet the safety requirements outlined in Article 411. Once finalized, UL 2108 will provide manufacturers with a clear set of guidelines for designing and testing low-voltage lighting systems to achieve compliance. Thirdly, UL 1838 is a standard for low-voltage landscape lighting systems and components. While UL 1838 does address some aspects of low-voltage lighting, it does not fully comply with older requirements of Article 411. One of the key reasons is the voltage limitation. Article 411 specifies that the voltage of low-voltage systems should not exceed 24 volts or 15 volts if powered by a Class 2 transformer. UL 1838, on the other hand, allows for power supplies with a maximum output voltage of 30 volts. This discrepancy means that a power supply listed under UL 1838 may not meet the voltage requirements of Article 411, preventing full compliance. The voltage limitations in Article 411 are crucial for safety. Lower voltages reduce the risk of electric shock, making the system safer for installation and use, particularly in outdoor environments where landscape lighting is commonly installed. Class 2 transformers are designed to limit the current and voltage to safe levels, further reducing the risk of electrical hazards. These transformers are constructed with additional safety features such as internal protection mechanisms to prevent overloads and short circuits. Regarding the common misconception about 15 volts transformers, it is important to clarify that the NEC does not universally mandate that all low-voltage transformers must be 15 volts or less. Article 411 allows for transformers with output voltages up to 24 volts, provided that they are Class 2 transformers and meet all other requirements specified in the article. The 15 volts limitation applies specifically when using a Class 2 transformer, offering an extra layer of safety by further reducing the voltage. However, if the transformer is not a Class 2 transformer, the maximum allowable voltage is 24 volts, provided all other conditions of Article 411 are met. To ensure compliance with Article 411, it is essential to carefully select components that meet the specific requirements outlined in the article. This includes verifying that the power supplies, transformers, and other components are listed by a recognized testing laboratory and that they comply with the voltage limitations and other safety standards. When selecting a transformer, it is important to consider whether it is a Class 2 transformer and to ensure that its output voltage is appropriate for the intended application. If using a Class 2 transformer, the output voltage should not exceed 15 volts. If using a transformer that is not Class 2, the output voltage should not exceed 24 volts. In addition to voltage limitations, Article 411 also includes requirements for wiring methods, overcurrent protection, and grounding. These requirements are designed to further enhance the safety of low-voltage lighting systems and to prevent electrical hazards. It is important to follow these requirements carefully when installing and maintaining low-voltage lighting systems to ensure compliance with the NEC. As of the current date, there is no single UL listing that encompasses all requirements of Article 411. Installers and manufacturers must carefully review the specifications of each component to ensure that they collectively meet the requirements of Article 411. This often involves using a combination of UL-listed components that, when used together, comply with the NEC. Once UL 2108 is finalized and available, it will provide a more straightforward path to compliance by offering a single standard that covers all aspects of low-voltage lighting systems. Until then, careful attention to detail and thorough understanding of Article 411 are essential to ensure safety and compliance. In summary, to comply with Article 411, one must adhere to these key points. Firstly, ensure all system components are listed by a recognized testing laboratory such as UL. Secondly, verify that the voltage of the system does not exceed 24 volts or 15 volts if supplied by a Class 2 transformer. Thirdly, use Class 2 transformers when appropriate to enhance safety and limit voltage. Fourthly, follow all wiring, overcurrent protection, and grounding requirements specified in Article 411. Fifthly, stay informed about the development and availability of UL 2108, which will provide a more comprehensive standard for low-voltage lighting systems. By adhering to these guidelines, installers and manufacturers can ensure that low-voltage lighting systems are safe, compliant, and perform reliably. The complexity of complying with Article 411 stems from the fact that it is a comprehensive set of requirements designed to address various safety concerns associated with low-voltage lighting systems. These systems are often installed in outdoor environments, where they are exposed to moisture, physical damage, and other hazards. Therefore, it is essential to ensure that all components are robust, durable, and capable of withstanding these conditions. The listing requirements help to ensure that the components have been tested and certified to meet these criteria. Furthermore, low-voltage lighting systems often involve a combination of different types of equipment, such as power supplies, transformers, luminaires, and wiring. Each of these components must be carefully selected and installed to ensure that they are compatible with each other and that they collectively meet the requirements of Article 411. This requires a thorough understanding of the electrical characteristics of each component and how they interact with each other. The voltage limitations are particularly important because they directly impact the risk of electric shock. Higher voltages pose a greater risk of shock, while lower voltages are generally safer. The NEC sets specific voltage limits for low-voltage lighting systems to minimize this risk. The use of Class 2 transformers provides an additional layer of safety by limiting the current and voltage to safe levels. These transformers are designed to prevent overloads and short circuits, which can lead to electrical hazards. In addition to the technical requirements, compliance with Article 411 also requires careful attention to documentation and record keeping. Installers and manufacturers must maintain records of all components used in the system, including their listing information and specifications. This documentation is essential for demonstrating compliance with the NEC and for troubleshooting any problems that may arise. The ongoing development of UL 2108 reflects the industry's commitment to improving the safety and reliability of low-voltage lighting systems. Once finalized, this standard will provide a more streamlined and comprehensive approach to compliance, making it easier for installers and manufacturers to meet the requirements of Article 411. Until then, it is essential to stay informed about the latest developments and to seek guidance from qualified professionals when necessary. To further clarify the nuances of UL listings and NEC compliance, let's consider a few specific scenarios. Firstly, imagine a landscape lighting project that requires a low-voltage power supply. The installer might be tempted to use a readily available UL 1838 listed power supply, assuming that it meets all the necessary requirements. However, as we've discussed, UL 1838 allows for a maximum output voltage of 30 volts, which exceeds the 24-volt limit specified in Article 411. In this case, the installer would need to select a different power supply that complies with the voltage limitation. This could involve choosing a power supply specifically designed for low-voltage lighting systems and listed under a different UL standard, or using a Class 2 transformer to step down the voltage to 15 volts or less. Secondly, consider a situation where an installer is using a non-Class 2 transformer with an output voltage of 24 volts. In this case, the installer must ensure that all other requirements of Article 411 are met, such as proper wiring methods, overcurrent protection, and grounding. The installer must also verify that the transformer is listed by a recognized testing laboratory and that it is suitable for the intended application. Thirdly, imagine a scenario where an installer is using a combination of different components from different manufacturers. In this case, the installer must carefully review the specifications of each component to ensure that they are compatible with each other and that they collectively meet the requirements of Article 411. This may require consulting with the manufacturers or seeking guidance from a qualified electrical engineer. In each of these scenarios, it is essential to prioritize safety and compliance with the NEC. The consequences of non-compliance can be severe, ranging from electrical hazards and property damage to legal liabilities and fines. Therefore, it is always best to err on the side of caution and to seek expert advice when in doubt. The information provided here is intended for educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional electrical advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer before installing or modifying any electrical system. Additionally, always refer to the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes and regulations. The electrical codes and standards are constantly evolving to reflect new technologies and safety concerns. Therefore, it is essential to stay up to date on the latest changes and to adapt your practices accordingly. By staying informed, seeking expert advice, and prioritizing safety, you can ensure that your low-voltage lighting systems are compliant, reliable, and safe for everyone. Remember, electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. So let's work together to create a safer electrical environment for ourselves and for future generations. The key takeaway is that while UL listings provide a valuable indication of product safety and performance, they do not automatically guarantee compliance with the NEC. It is the responsibility of the installer and the manufacturer to ensure that all components of the system collectively meet the requirements of Article 411 and other applicable codes and standards. This requires a thorough understanding of the technical requirements, careful attention to detail, and a commitment to safety. By adhering to these principles, we can ensure that low-voltage lighting systems are a safe and reliable part of our built environment. To further illustrate the importance of understanding the specific requirements of Article 411, let's delve into some common misconceptions and potential pitfalls. Firstly, one common misconception is that if a product is UL listed, it is automatically compliant with all applicable codes and standards. However, UL listings only indicate that the product has been tested and certified to meet certain safety and performance criteria. They do not guarantee that the product is suitable for all applications or that it meets all the requirements of the NEC. For example, a power supply may be UL listed for general use, but it may not meet the specific voltage limitations or other requirements of Article 411. Secondly, another potential pitfall is relying solely on the manufacturer's specifications without verifying them independently. While manufacturers typically provide accurate information about their products, it is always a good practice to double-check the specifications and to confirm that they meet the requirements of Article 411. This can be done by reviewing the product's UL listing information or by consulting with a qualified electrical engineer. Thirdly, a third common mistake is overlooking the importance of proper installation. Even if all the components of the system are compliant with Article 411, improper installation can still lead to safety hazards and code violations. For example, using undersized wiring, failing to properly ground the system, or neglecting to provide adequate overcurrent protection can all create dangerous situations. Therefore, it is essential to follow all installation instructions carefully and to ensure that the system is installed by a qualified electrician. Fourthly, it is also important to be aware of the potential for changes in the NEC and UL standards. The codes and standards are constantly evolving to reflect new technologies and safety concerns. Therefore, it is essential to stay up to date on the latest changes and to adapt your practices accordingly. This can be done by subscribing to industry publications, attending training courses, or consulting with a qualified electrical inspector. Fifthly, another potential issue arises with modifications or alterations to listed equipment. Any modifications or alterations to listed equipment can void the UL listing and create safety hazards. Therefore, it is essential to only use listed equipment in its original, unaltered form. If modifications are necessary, they must be performed by a qualified professional and approved by the UL or another recognized testing laboratory. To avoid these potential pitfalls, it is essential to adopt a comprehensive approach to compliance that includes, firstly, thorough research and planning. Secondly, careful selection of components. Thirdly, proper installation practices. Fourthly, ongoing education and awareness. Fifthly, adherence to all applicable codes and standards. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your low-voltage lighting systems are safe, compliant, and reliable for years to come. Remember, electrical safety is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process that requires constant vigilance and attention to detail. So let's all commit to making electrical safety a top priority in our work and in our lives. Now, let's address some frequently asked questions related to UL listings and Article 411 compliance. One common question is whether it is permissible to use unlisted components in a low-voltage lighting system. The answer is generally no. Article 411 requires all system components to be listed by a recognized testing laboratory. The only exception is for certain components that are specifically exempted by the code. However, these exemptions are typically limited to very specific situations and should be carefully reviewed before using unlisted components. Another frequent question is how to determine whether a particular product is listed for compliance with Article 411. The best way to determine this is to review the product's UL listing information. This information can typically be found on the product's label or in the manufacturer's documentation. The UL listing information will specify the UL standard to which the product has been tested and certified. If the product is listed for compliance with Article 411, the listing information will typically indicate this specifically. A third common question is what to do if you encounter a situation where a product is not listed for compliance with Article 411, but you believe that it is safe and suitable for the intended application. In this situation, you should consult with a qualified electrical engineer or a UL representative. They can evaluate the product and determine whether it meets the requirements of Article 411. If they determine that the product is safe and suitable, they may be able to provide you with a written opinion or a field evaluation report that can be used to demonstrate compliance with the code. However, It is important to note that these opinions and reports are not a substitute for a formal UL listing. They are simply a way to document that the product has been evaluated by a qualified professional and found to be safe and suitable for the intended application. A fourth common question revolves around the use of low-voltage landscape lighting systems in residential and commercial settings. Article 411 applies to both residential and commercial installations of low-voltage lighting systems. However, there may be additional requirements or considerations that apply specifically to commercial installations. For example, commercial installations may be subject to more stringent inspection requirements or may require the use of additional safety devices. Therefore, it is essential to consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer to ensure that your installation complies with all applicable codes and standards. Finally, a fifth question is what resources are available to help installers and manufacturers comply with Article 411. There are many resources available to help installers and manufacturers comply with Article 411. These resources include industry publications, training courses, online forums, and consulting services. The NEC itself is a valuable resource, as it provides a detailed explanation of the requirements of Article 411. Additionally, UL offers a variety of resources, including product listings, technical bulletins, and training programs. By taking advantage of these resources, installers and manufacturers can stay informed about the latest changes in the codes and standards and can ensure that their low-voltage lighting systems are safe, compliant, and reliable. Remember, compliance with Article 411 is not just a legal requirement, it is a matter of safety. By taking the time to understand the requirements and to follow proper installation practices, you can help to prevent electrical hazards and to protect yourself, your family, and your community.